Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane, and I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library. And I'm really thrilled to be here with one of my favorite writers, Meg Cabot, for this wonderful series that we've been doing for the last few months called What's on Your TBR Pile? And you must all have TBR piles. That's to be read. Mine is like ceiling high, ready to like take the house down. But I'm going to add to it tonight, and I can't wait. So before I pass it on to Meg, I'm just going to really quickly say thank you to the Friends of the Ashland Library who support all of our adult programming, and we couldn't do this without them. And I'd like to thank the Framingham Public Library, which partners with us on this series. And now, Meg Cabot, who is I feel like you don't need an introduction. I mean, I grew up on Princess Diaries. My kids have grown up. In fact, my daughter was watching the Princess Diaries on TV when I walked in the door this afternoon.
Ah, that's great.
I know, and I said, usually she doesn't think I'm cool at all. And I said, hey, I'm talking to Meg Cabot this afternoon. And she goes, that's cool.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right. So, would you like to say a few words about yourself, and then we'll start talking about what's on your TBR pile?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody who showed up. And I don't know what to say. I'm a writer, and I love to read as well. So this is exciting for me to get to talk about other people's books for a change. And I'm really looking forward to having this discussion. So thanks for coming, and thanks for having me.
Excellent. Awesome. So yeah, let's jump right into it because we only have half an hour. What have you been reading lately that you would recommend? And let's go by age range. So let's start with the
Okay.
youngest because you've written across the genre,
I
across the age
have.
ranges.
Yeah, and I read across the age ranges. And so I picked out some of my favorites. Some I read a while ago, and some I've read recently. And one that I wanted to talk about that I've talked about before is called Bounce by Megan Shull. And the
Mhm.
reason I wanted to talk about it is because this is about to become a movie starring JoJo Siwa. I don't know if I
Mhm.
pronounced her name right, but okay. This is a super fun book for tweens, and it's about a girl who kind of hates her family on Christmas Eve. They have like a little bit of a fight, and she goes to bed wishing she could be in a different family. And of course, you know what happens. She ends up in a different family. She bounces from multiple different families. And it's super cute. And I can't wait to see the film with JoJo. I think it's going to be great. So,
She's from Dancing with the Stars, right?
well, yeah, she's done a few other things besides that, but she's great and super positive. And I think it's just going to be really fun. And so, but the book is great too. So read the book first. You should always read the book. I know from experience, you should read the book first and then enjoy the movie. And both are good. They're just different.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's for tweens. And then for the kind of, I was trying to think for teens, what would be great and representative. And I don't know about all of you, but I'm super into witches right now. So I have a really good witch book. It's by Danielle Page and Cass Morgan. And I don't know if you guys saw Cass Morgan was on Jeopardy the other night. Yay! She did really well.
Too
Um,
nice.
yeah, so the Ravens, so what's fun about it is a sorority. So you kind of get to read about college life, but it's it really is more geared towards teens. And there's a sequel too that just came out called The Monarchs. So
Mhm.
these are two really fun books, and you should really if you want to have witchy fun, it's not super scary, but it's scary enough that you get your witch fill, and you also get some teen angst, and also get to support two fabulous writers, Danielle and Cass. It's really fun. So
Other than the witches, though, was there anything in specific that you liked about that particular duology?
I love, so okay, so I was not in a sorority in college. I was not like that kind of person, but if I had been in one, I would want to be in a witch one.
Mm.
So that's what I liked about it. Like, I don't really want to read about that kind of sorority because I wouldn't really want to be in a sorority because it's too much kind of togetherness. I would only want to be in a witch one, or of course I would want to be in the one that Elle was in Legally Blonde. So that was what I enjoyed. I was like, okay, I can handle this. This is the kind of togetherness. Well, except that they're trying to maybe kill each other. No, that's not a spoiler. Okay, moving along to adult books. This book, I just read it, and this one is coming out in June. Okay. And this was one of my favorite books that I've read that's coming out. And so it will be out actually in a matter of days. And it's called On Rotation. And I don't know how to pronounce this last name. So I looked it up. because I've never met this author and I've never heard her name pronounced, but I believe it's Shirlene Aboibi or Abobi.
Okay.
And this is a fantastic book. I don't want to say it's not a rom-com, okay, but it has romance in it. And it is about, again, we're talking about students, kind of. She's a medical student, but she's applying for, she's doing her medical tests. She's actually working in a hospital, and she's also having some really bad romantic problems, but they're hilarious. But they're also, kind of serious, but nothing that is like going to make you have too much angst. It's just a really funny, great book, but it's also about, the character is from a Ghanaian family, and I had no idea about that culture. So that was really great. I got to read about a new culture, great food descriptions that I was like, wow, I really want to go there and eat at, actually set in Chicago. And I'm kind of from that area of, well, I'm more Southern Indiana, but that Northern Indiana area. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. It's really, really descriptive and good. And, I don't know, I loved it. So if you get a chance to read On Rotation, you really should. You find out about so many things I had no idea about. First of all, just the stuff you have to go through as a medical student. Wow, that was really hard. And then that's great, just a great little love story too. So that was great.
Guess you haven't seen Grey's Anatomy, huh?
Okay, so yes, but I felt like this was more, it was actually kind of like Grey's Anatomy mixed with a little bit Chicago Med, because it's set in Chicago. And then also, of course, the Ghanaian culture, and then the kind of the love stuff, but more, it was kind of more modern, I felt, than Grey's Anatomy, because Grey's Anatomy has been going on for so long. It's had texting and all that kind of stuff. Okay, moving on from there. This is my other great fun read that I found for adults. This is also a college romance. And this is also a name I've never said aloud before, but Bolu Babalola, I love saying that name, is kind of just, she has kind of skyrocketed into fame and just incredible literary prowess, I think, recently. This is her new book, Honey and Spice, that's coming out in July. This is so much fun. Also set in a college. It's got a great main character who is kind of also having some romantic problems. And this was so much fun as well. So, and it's also kind of about, it's set in England though, too. So that makes it really fun, because you're kind of, again, reading about a different world that I personally have not lived in for any long periods of time. So it's like British college. So that made it even more fun. And I had a great time reading that. So if you get a chance, check this one out. Okay. That's it for what I've read.
So what are you looking forward to reading in the near future?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm so lucky because I get sent so many books. So what I have not read yet that I'm looking forward to reading is this new entry by Julie Chu. She actually wrote a book that I read last year called The Donut Trap. That was so good. Did you get to read that? It was so fun. And I think this is her new one. And I think it's an office romance. Circling back to you. And I'm really looking forward to it. I love this cover. I love the cover design. And it looks really good. I think it's an enemies to lovers. I'm not sure, but it looks really good. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I also got sent this one, which is a royal romance.
Oh, Tracy Lively.
Yes. Okay. And I think that it's about a prince and a rapper. And I think that the prince somehow, from what I understand, this comes out in June. So it's actually going to be very shortly coming out. I think he hires the rapper for something, for some kind of event. And they have a little bit of a feisty, obviously hot romance going on. So I have not read it, but I'm looking forward to it. And I've heard really good things. So that one I'm looking forward to.
So Jennifer says that Enemies to Lovers is her jam, and books with food descriptions, to go back to one of your other ones.
Yes. Yeah.
Raphaela says, "Hello, Meg. My name is Raphaela. I'm from Brazil, and I love the Princess Diary books. A kiss."
Thank you. I think food descriptions are so great. And the thing I loved about Julie's last book was that the food descriptions in Donut Trap were so good. But yeah, if you like food descriptions, then you definitely have to read On Rotation, because it's so good. And she does a great job. Bolu does a great job with that as well. The last one that I have not read yet, but everybody's talking about, is the new one by Sally Thorne,
Yes.
which okay, you can see that it looks a little bit bizarre. And when I got it, I was like, wait, is this really about Dr. Frankenstein's sister? And yes, it is. And does she actually make a man? No, she does not. I read the back of it, and I think that what happens is that she finds a man who has amnesia, and she kind of helps him out, because I was like, if she actually makes a guy, that would actually be very interesting, and I would be into reading that. But I don't think that's what happens, but I'm looking forward to it. But maybe she does make a man. I don't know. We need to research this. This doesn't come out till September, but
Can you imagine though, like putting the ingredients in for your perfect man
I
and then
mean, yeah, I can imagine that. As a writer, I think all of us who like to read, and we could all imagine, but I don't know if that would actually be, you would need his consent. Because that's why the monster's so mad at Dr. Frankenstein. He's like, dude, what? This was not okay. That's the whole point of Frankenstein. But I think that if anyone can handle it, Sally Thorne can do it. So I think that she could do it.
So Sally Thorne wrote The Hating Game, right? Yeah.
Yes. Which was such a cute, I just saw that movie. That was really cute. And talk about enemies to lovers. That was, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So let's dig into your history a little bit in terms of the TBR pile and what helps you write, and what do you like to read? What book or author inspired you to become a writer?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I loved reading since I could do it, but I mean, I had a hard time as a kid because I was kind of a reluctant reader, and it took me a little while to figure out how when you're reading, that you picture the stuff in your head as it's going along. And the book that really helped me figure that out was actually a book that was made into a movie. And I saw the movie, and then I found out there was a book that it was based on. And that was really weirdly, it was The Fantastic Voyage, which is a movie about some people who are shrunk down really small, and then they're shot into a man's body, and they have to go destroy some plaque in his brain. And Isaac Asimov actually wrote the book. So when I was a kid, I would just check that book out of the library over and over again, because I understood, like, I could recognize the scenes. So when people come up to me and they're like, oh, I love the Princess Diaries and I love the books too, I totally get it. Because even though the book's a little different than the movie, I understand that, especially for kind of new readers or reluctant readers, that's a way that they finally can sometimes connect to reading. So I think I'm like so proud that I was able to do that for people. It makes me so happy.
Of course. So in what author or books inspire you now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many. I was actually reading some of the sample questions that you were going to ask me. One of them was like, what book made you cry? And I was trying to think, what was the last book that made me cry? And it made me laugh because it was such a goofy book. It was The Last Coyote by Michael Connelly, which is a Harry Bosch novel. If you've watched Bosch on Amazon Prime. And it was so sweet because he's if you've seen that show or read any of the books, he's a hardened detective in Los Angeles, but he always sees this coyote out of his house in like the hills. And one night he doesn't see it, and there's an earthquake, and he's all worried about the coyote. This is not a spoiler, but I was just like, oh, because he's kind of a coyote, because, he tries to do what's right. And it's so hard working against the system that, sometimes it's so unfair. And of course, his house is falling down because there was an earthquake. And anyway, I was weeping about that book on an airplane because I bought it at the airport, and the person sitting next to me was like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh my God, it's The Last Coyote. Anyway, yeah, so it's embarrassing. I don't know if that inspired me, but it made me cry.
I think it would be kind of funny to be sitting next to Meg Cabot crying over a book in a plane.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, it's I do a lot of my reading I used to do a lot of my reading on airplanes, not so much now.
So Haley says, and I agree with her, that you should write the Make a Man story if Sally doesn't.
Well, we'll have to figure that one out. I think that would be very intriguing. I think there have been some books where some people have made their own man, and it did not turn out well.
But imagine, like, you always think like you want a certain thing, but it's probably not what you actually want or need, right?
Well, we'll think about it. Let's put that one away. We'll file it. But thank you.
Next time I interview, interview you, I'm going to definitely bring it up. Have you written that book yet?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And Raphael says, of all the books you've written, do you have a favorite? Oh, like the picking the children game.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think that you have to really like what you're writing right now. Like right now, I'm working on a bunch of stuff and I hate it so much, but that's because you're working on it. So I have to keep telling myself, no, I really love this project. It's just great. It's gonna turn out really well. So and then as soon as it's done, you do love it. So I think I think that's what you kind of have to do is just love the thing that you're working on. And then as soon as it's done, then you love the next thing that you're working on because that's the only way you can get through it.
Hmm. Right. And you've been writing for a long time, so is
Yeah.
inspiration difficult for you because you've kind of done a lot, or or do you still get inspired by things around you, or people, or books, or storylines, or
No, I
scenery?
mean, I think that the one thing that's kind of hard is that I mean, as a creative person, you always want to be doing something different. But readers are like, well, we like that you do this one thing really well, which I totally appreciate. Like, I always want to be writing something a little bit different than I've done before.
Mhm.
But people are like, but we like that one thing that you did. And can you just keep doing that? I always want to write really gory like serial killer books and that's not what I'm known for. So and I don't think I'm actually very good at it, but I have like that goal that one day I'm gonna do the really gory serial killer murder mystery. But every time I start doing it, it ends up being funny and inappropriate, and that's not good. So I think that that's really where I should stay, is the funny romance book.
I don't know. I would read a funny mystery written by you.
Oh, good, thank you. Well, I'll work on that. Maybe that's what I'll do next, is the
I'm
funny mystery.
Full disclaimer though, I'll read anything that you write, so it doesn't really matter if it's a
Oh,
mystery or whatever. But
you.
you had jumped ahead a little bit on my questions, and you had said a book that made you cry. What about a book that just made you laugh out loud?
A book that made me laugh out loud. Oh, wow. I'm trying to think. I have to say that the Bolu's book did make me laugh. This book really did make me laugh because there's just I mean, this character, the main character, is just a lot like Bolu herself. If you ever read her social media, she's very funny, and the main character is very funny too. So I would have to say that's the most recent book that I've read that I was actually laughing out loud. And my husband came in and was like, "What is happening? Why are you laughing so much?" I was like, "Oh my god, these kids." In college in England, my gosh, they're so foul mouthed. The swears that they use are not the swears that we use here. We don't use that kind of language, but it's hilarious. And
Mhm.
I would like to start incorporating it, but we would get in trouble. Their everyday language is so much more salty than ours, saltier.
So you're going to write a serial killer murder mystery with
Some very
British slang,
yes,
foul-mouthed kids.
that would be great. Yes, I love it.
Awesome. So, what book recently have you read that surprised you?
Ooh, that surprised me. Gosh. I was reading, oh, this is terrible that you asked me this. And I've been getting a lot of books that I've been downloading onto my Kindle. And so I don't have it right here, but I just got one that is coming out probably next year. It's a K-pop drama. It's a K-pop drama. I know, right? It's YA. And oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the book or her name is Anne. I have to look it up while we're talking. Anyway, it was so surprisingly good, but also I was actually like astonished at some of the things that happened during the book. And it's set in gosh, I don't even remember, but you would ask. So just one moment, keep talking. Just talk amongst yourselves while I try to okay. Yeah, so her name is Anne Liang, Liang. She has a new book coming out called If You Could See the Sun, but that's not the one I read. I read the one that's coming out after that. So anyway, her book is coming out after If You Could See the Sun, which I don't know what it's called because it's just barely barely in ARC's. Very romantic, amazing fake dating, which is not usually my favorite trope. I don't normally go for that because I'm like, really, who would do that? It's so great and unbelievable. You'll love it.
I believe Mia Thermopolis did a little fake
Damn
dating.
it, you're right, she did. I totally forgot about that. She did quite a bit of it actually.
Yes, she did.
Gosh, I
I'm
wrote some.
sorry. I'm like I told you, my daughter was watching it, but it's interesting that you pick a romance to be your most surprising book of recent that you read recently, because most people pick mysteries or thrillers. So I think that's
Well,
really interesting.
yeah, I think I read so many mysteries they don't surprise me anymore. Right, because usually I find that I read stuff that I don't write, so I don't really write that many mysteries. So when I do read a romance and then it manages to surprise me, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So it was a pretty good one.
And what is your favorite comfort read or author, comfort author, either one?
Oh, this is very telling, but it's James Herriot's The All Creatures Great and Small
Hmm.
series, which
Hmm.
has just recently been on PBS. But I have all those books, and when I'm really sad or depressed, I'll go back and reread those over and over again with all the stories of the cats and the dogs. And I have the editions that are just cats and the editions that are just dog stories. But those are really some old favorites of mine.
Any
And
particular reason?
my cat's walking in right as I said that. Any particular reason? I think that they're just gentle stories, and they always have just heartwarming scenes where people are kind to animals, or if something bad has happened with the animal, then the vet comes along and helps them out and finds them a nice home, and I end up just having my heart warmed, and it's so sweet. So I like those kinds of stories.
I love it. What is the first book you remember reading on your own?
So the first book that I remember reading on my own was actually a librarian helped me find. I was having a hard time. It was the school librarian took us all into the library, and everybody was finding a book. And I really wanted to read a book about an animal because that's what I was drawn to. Besides weird stories about people being shot into other people's blood systems, like in the Fantastic Voyage. And she helped me find a book that was about a kangaroo. It's the life cycle of the kangaroo. And I remember checking that out and was so in love with that book. I checked it out so many times. She finally told me, there are other books that are about animals that you could read, like Black Beauty and Lassie and so many other great books. But that was the first one that I checked out, brought home, read cover to cover so many times, and then continued to read forever. And can I just tell you that the life cycle of the kangaroo is disgusting? Like it's not what you think. And I vividly remember it. It is so gross. And I don't even know how they manage to survive. Very few of them do, but they flourish in certain places.
Well, now I'm going to have to find that book.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I mentioned this to people here, but we are live streaming this on Facebook, and Mary Alice on Facebook says that she has never heard of any of those authors that you spoke about earlier. So this is great because it
Which,
gives us.
by the way, here's my cat.
Oh,
She wants to say hello. It's Pearl. Hello. Hi,
oh,
Pearl.
I don't think Pearl wants to say.
No, she doesn't.
That's
But
hilarious.
she's all wet for some reason. I don't know what's happening. It's not even raining. Okay. She's never heard of the authors that I did for my TV
Yeah,
read.
but that
Yeah,
means
well,
that.
they're all new. Oh, well, except for Sally Thorne. I think they're mostly new. Tracy Livesey, I think, has done some before,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Rafaela asks, "What's your favorite book right now?"
My favorite book right now. I'm very into, I'm not reading anything at the moment because I just have all of these that I've got to read. So I'm going to say probably it's a tie between these two. They're both really different, but really good. But I don't know which one I'm going to read next. I think it's probably going to be Julie Chu's book because I loved Donut Trap so much. I'm really looking forward to that.
Hmm.
But I do love a royalty book. So, and how can you resist a rapper being
I
with a
know.
prince? I
Did
don't
you read,
know.
did you read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston?
Yes.
Talk
So
about royalty. So good.
yeah, exactly. But I'm very fascinated by what could possibly be going on here. So
Hmm.
I'm very lucky that I got advanced copies of these. So I'm very fortunate. But that's when you've written, 100 books like I have, you get sent stuff. I'm like, yay, bonus.
It is a perk of being a librarian as well. So
Yes.
we will, but there's not very many, so we'll take it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love being a librarian. And Jennifer said librarians for the win earlier. Uh,
Yay.
Tiffany says, besides the Princess Diary novels, what other books or characters of your own creation do you get approached about the most?
Definitely Sue Simon from the Mediator series is the one that I hear about the most. And everyone keeps asking about the movie. There's a Netflix movie deal, and that is still in place. I know that people have heard some bad things about Netflix movie deals being, but that one is fine. I just heard from them. They're like, we are on track. So that is still happening for anyone who's a fan of and if you're not a fan, you should become one. Let's see if I don't have any of those books here, but yeah, so that's about a girl who has the ability to see and speak to ghosts, and she mediates between the living and the dead, but there's a sexy, hot ghost that lives in her bedroom, and he really needs to go back to the 1800s where he came from, but he's quite a gentleman, so there's nothing weird about it. Although she wants there to be something weird. She really wants there, but he will not go along with that. So that's the one people talk to me the most about, I would say.
Hmm. That would totally make sense.
And that's probably only going to get worse after the Netflix thing. Like, okay, I'm ready for it though. It'll be fine.
I would imagine. I mean, like, does it ever get old that people do associate you with the Princess Diaries?
No, I love it. Are you kidding? No, I feel so fortunate and I'm so excited. Anytime somebody comes up to me and talks to me about that, because I think I love that whole experience. I was really fortunate that, I mean, I had Julie Andrews and Anne Hathaway in a movie of my books, and Gary Marshall directed it.
Hmm.
So that was a fantastic experience. And, I could never, I mean, how fortunate was I that happened? And I'm just hoping that, someday maybe we'll see more of them. Who knows? Not Gary because he passed away, but, whatever. It would be great.
Well, can you believe that Julie Andrews is now Lady Whistledown?
I can. And I love that. I think she's so great. And I love the Bridgerton series. I think I watch it every time.
Hmm.
And I love that for Julie Quinn. I think that is so much fun. So it's been really, Julia and I actually started at the same time writing romance novels. Like we were at romance conventions in the like 90s together. So it's really fun to see how our careers have developed. And
Oh.
that we have the same lady, the same amazing actress in both of our cinematic creations of our books.
Hmm. Haley says, what is your writing schedule like? How many hours do you write a day, and how long does it take to write a novel?
Oh my gosh. I try to write like it's a normal job, like not, I wouldn't say 9 to 5, but maybe 10 to 5 every day, except weekends. But sometimes on the weekend too, if I have a deadline, like right now, I'm writing every single day, and it's brutal. But because that's just the way that you have to be. And I wish that I'm looking at my hair. I'm sorry. I wish that I had a muse, but I don't. I don't know where my muse is. And how long does it take to finish a novel? It just depends, I think, and you go through the first draft takes quite a few months, and then you send it into your editor, and your editor says, you got to change all this, and then changing it takes a few months. So from the time really that I turn in the first draft to when it finally comes out on shelves takes a year at least, and that's not even including the time that I took to write it. So it takes a really long time for books to come out. So
Hmm.
it's definitely a job that you need to have a day job if you want to pay your bills if you're just starting out. So I worked for 10 years at a dorm in at New York University while I was trying to get published. And even while I was writing books, I wrote the Princess Diaries at work when I was working at NYU when my boss wasn't looking and trying to get published and paying my bills. It was tough, but it was fun and I loved it.
Mary Alice says on Facebook that her TBR pile is thousands of books, which most of ours are. And Jennifer asks if there's any news about the third movie, which I think you said there might be.
Yeah, nothing official. I haven't heard anything official. So keep your fingers crossed. Wear your
Oh.
tiaras.
I will get mine right after this. Um, so I have a question, and I know we're going over time a little bit, but I just wanted to really ask that I've noticed that your books are just incredibly diverse. The authors, the backgrounds, the stories, all of that. Is that something that have you been reading more diverse books over the last, 10 years, or like has it something that you developed or something that you've always read?
I just want to read a wide collection of authors because that's something I'm interested in. And so, and I think also too, publishers are finally coming around and publishing a lot more diverse authors.
Mhm.
So that's been really great. I've definitely noticed that in romance, the romance genre. I think mysteries have kind of been doing that for a while, but specifically women's fiction is opening up a lot more. I think we got a lot more queer fiction. We have certainly, hopefully we're getting more writers of color. I mean, I think that just this pile alone, you can see that. So I think that that's been great. I feel like when I was first starting out I can't speak so much to romance, but definitely in YA, we didn't have as much diversity as we do now. And I think you and I were kind of talking about that before we started, that books are getting banned at a tremendous rate now, especially in schools, because there are some parents who seem to be super threatened by that, which I live in Florida, so I can speak to the fact that I know all about it. Because I like just open the paper and I'm like, oh, look, all my friends' books are being banned, and
Oh,
it's shocking and terrible. So, and I don't understand it, but
yeah.
we have to do all we can to try to fight it.
That's right. Well, Haley says she's going to have to sign off, but she wanted to say thank you for being one of her favorite authors. Your books have been able to bring her joy, light and joy during some really tough times. Thank you for answering my
Aw.
questions. This was great.
Thank you. Bye.
So, before we do go, I just wanted to make sure I ask you if there's anything coming up from you. I know that you can't tell us too much, but is there anything that we can look forward to?
There's definitely going to be news. There's going to be some announcements of stuff that is coming from my fingers that I've written, and hopefully some movie news, but nothing that I can announce right now. So I'm sorry, but thank you so much for coming. This was really fun. And in the meantime, read all these other books because they are fantastic, and at least the ones I've read so far. And I think the ones I haven't read are going to be fantastic too.
Yep. Me and Mary Alice we're going to tip our piles over right after this.
I know we've got a lot
So,
to read.
yes, and there's always such good stuff out there, and it's nice to know, and this is why we started the series. It's nice to know like what writers that we like are reading so that it helps us inform, make better decisions for ourselves. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and help me find things that my next best read.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Definitely. So thank you all for being here. And I just, I'm just having such a ball. I could talk to you all night. So I'm going to say good night and have a wonderful, wonderful evening and happy reading.
Thanks.
Bye,
You too.
everybody. I'm going to end the recording.